Hello, I'm Kaylee Rose Evans. In this video I'm going to be talking a little bit about some questions I was asked at the Bohemian Festival yesterday. So this event was organised by the Social Work Student Hub, so the Social Work Bohemians. This is a group of students from all over the place and they come together online to share resources and support to students. And I can honestly say that they're absolutely brilliant. And I really appreciate what they're doing, and I just wish that I'd had something like this when I was a student taking my degree level studies. So shout out to them and all the work that they put in to put the event together. I think it's really remarkable what they're doing. So the two questions that I was asked was, how long have you been a social worker? What was your decision to start tweeting about your social work experiences and start doing YouTube? So I'm going to start with that question now for anyone who missed the event. I've been in social work for 5 years and I've had, I would say, a really good career so far. So I know that not everyone has that chance in social work, and things can be different, can't they, in different places. So I do work in an area where there is a real need for social work. There's quite high levels of poor health outcomes and poverty and lots of issues really. But I've been working in various roles and I think that that's helped with my overall confidence. I've worked in a hospital, a rehab centre, I've worked on a new project in the community alongside district nurses, and now I'm working in a longer term community team. My post-qualifying experience has been with adults, but prior to training as a social worker, I worked in children's services as a volunteer and also in schools, so done a bit of both really. In terms of social media during my degree, the perception was that, and the advice was to avoid social media really, of things you can't do on social media. Things like don't post a picture of yourself drunk and don't sort of bring the profession into disrepute by posting inappropriate things online or bad things about the organisation you work for or the place you're on placement. And I think all of those things are really important to drill into people, because you need to be prepared to not lose your job when you get it. You know, we work so hard to qualify as a social worker. But however, I've also been studying a master's, so I've been building up module by module since I've qualified as a social worker, and that's been brilliant for my development to carry on sort of reflecting and learning alongside my practice. Because I do feel that I only really got to grips with the academic work once I was getting towards the end of my BA, and carrying on has really increased my writing skills and my confidence in my academic ability. If anyone wants advice about what I've done, I can offer that, that's fine. But in terms of my masters, when I was doing it on one of the modules, a lecturer actually encouraged me to go on Twitter and set up a profile, so like a professional social work profile, and I didn't have the confidence at first because I thought that it was only for really intelligent people. You know, with Twitter I thought you'd have to have something really amazing to say all of the time, but actually he told me that that wasn't the case and that it was a really good opportunity to learn from lots of different people. And since then I haven't looked back. It was absolutely brilliant to get on there and be part of the community. So I took more of a bystander approach at first, so I sort of observed what other people were doing and sort of the language that people used and what works, what doesn't. And I'm really glad that I did that before jumping straight in, because I think that there's a lot that you can get wrong on social media, and you do have to be careful because we are bound by like the ethics that we sign up for in social work. And it's sort of given me more confidence to go on video now and know that what I'm saying is okay. And I'd never want to post anything that was going to cause me problems, so I do try with that. But then in terms of YouTube, I noticed that there was a real gap on YouTube, because I'm actually quite obsessed with videos and audiobooks, because I think it's a really good way of learning beyond just sitting there and reading a normal book. It just seems to go into my head better when I listen to people and I buy into individuals. And I was always listening to things like from psychologists and therapists, and I thought, well, obviously a lot of this is applicable to social work because we pull from all of the different fields in terms of our knowledge, but it would be really interesting to have the social work perspective. However, at first I just did not have the confidence, but by this time I sort of had more of a growth mindset, because in the past I used to really lack confidence, but I listened to a lot of audiobooks and things around self-confidence and mindset, and by that point I knew it was more like an obstacle I needed to overcome rather than something I could never do. So I signed up to like a public speaking course, and I now attend every other week just to build up my confidence, and that's really helped. And then I decided that I was going to submit a video as part of my university training. So I committed myself in so that I knew I was going to have to do it. And I also went to a conference and met someone who was doing brilliant work, the MacIntyre charity, and I asked to interview someone from there. So that was Kieran, and if you look back at my older videos you'll see him, and he's just a brilliant person. But they do a lot of good work for people with learning disabilities. So now I'm really proud to say that that video that I made about asset-based community work is shared at university. So it just shows that, like, by pushing yourself and putting yourself out there, sometimes it can really pay off, and it sort of gives you the confidence, and it gives you like that feeling inside that you've achieved what you wanted to do, and it's a good feeling. So in terms of advice I'd have for other people that are considering content creation, I'd say, well, I wanted to start by a quote by Les Brown, who says that as soon as you open your mouth, you tell the world who you are. So I really like this quote because I think everything that we put out there, we're communicating something by whatever we write or say, but we're also telling the world a bit about us. So you need to be thinking about what it is about you that you want to portray. I put a bit of time into thinking, why am I actually doing this? Like, what is it about me that's like my unique selling point? So I thought a bit about what I do in practice, like what it is that people see in me that I contribute. I'm sort of the person where I like finding answers to problems. So if there's something, I'll have figured it out, or if it's a piece of law, I'll have looked it up because I just really want to know the answers. So people ring me for things like that. So I thought, oh well, that's something that I can put out there. So that's what led me to do like the interview tip videos, because something that I'd done is keep loads of notes over the past 5 years of all the answers and questions and answers to interviews, and I thought, well, I'll put that out on video because that'll be helpful to people. So helping people is something that I like to do. So I transferred that into what I was doing. So if you think about who you are and what you bring, that might be a starting point to think about your niche. The other thing I'd say though is there is an overemphasis on finding your niche, but I think that's because a lot of things are really oversaturated. But actually, social work is a niche in itself because there's actually not that much out there. I think it's quite an emerging area for social media. And if we look like 10 years ago, there was very little. But actually now there is more and more, but there's still a massive gap for more to be done, I'd say. So I think the more people that can come out and do things, the better, especially on YouTube. There's a big gap. But I mean, I wanted to go on YouTube because I feel I put myself across better when people can see my face, as opposed to like when I'm writing or they can just hear my voice. But think about what it is that you're going to have as your sole platform, so like your central platform, because something that you can do is spread yourself too thin if you're trying to do everything. So even if you're going to promote yourself on every single social media platform, if you feel you can handle that, that's fine. But I think you need to have like 1 or 2 key sources that you use. I use YouTube as my main content creation one, but then I use Twitter probably as my main one to sort of network and put my stuff out there. But now I'm starting to build up on Instagram and Facebook. But had I have started with all of them all at once, I think that would have been overwhelming. I think in terms of thinking about what you're doing, the importance of that is you need to be specific about knowing you're doing things that you actually are passionate and enjoy talking about or writing about, because you may find that you do really well and then you start getting offered opportunities, and you want those opportunities to be something that you actually would want to take up. Because if you're putting stuff out that you absolutely love, and you might end up just getting an absolutely brilliant opportunity that's exactly you. So think about that, because that can be really exciting if you've got it right. The other thing is, if you've got it to reflect who you are, there's a chance that you're going to build up a community around you of people that are similar to you, and that can bring such a massive amount of value to your life. And I've found that to be absolutely amazing. The people that I've met across the country and the world already, and I haven't even been doing it for that long, and it really is a good feeling. I'd say start before you're ready is a number one tip. So by that I don't mean be irresponsible, but in terms of what you're putting out. So with the responsibility side, what I mean is you don't want to lose your job over it. It's not worth it. You're doing this as an extra thing, and it might lead to being your job, but at the moment you want to keep your job. So figure out what it is that you're allowed to do. So I spoke to the communications team, because they're the ones that deal with like the social media, what you're allowed to do in the council I work for, and they're the one that wrote the policy. So I spoke to them about my idea and cleared it with them. I also spoke to managers, and then I signed a form about what I was doing and expressing an interest in it that was external, and I was very clear that I was representing myself. And once I'd got all that out the way, I then felt like confident to move forward. And there's other things you can do, like check it out with BASWA and things, but it's just about doing what you think is right. And then in terms of start before you're ready, I think it's just practicing. So you could practice doing videos. You don't have to put them out as public, but get started as soon as you can, because as soon as you start to realise where your shortfalls are, or what equipment you need, or any of you. So say you were writing a blog, you might then realise, oh actually this is easier than I thought, or oh there's, I need a website, and all of those things you can figure out without even putting it out there. But I think a lot of people become immobilised in the process of like overthinking like every step that they have to do, or like starting to feel they haven't got the confidence and self-belief to do it. And I think sometimes just starting gives you the momentum, and then when you're happy with your work, put it out. But don't expect it to be amazing straight away, because you build it up over time, and good enough is good enough, I think. I feel like I've progressed in the past year. It's just getting started, it just helps you so much with your progression. I'd like to finish with a bit about the spotlight effect. So the spotlight effect is where we have the tendency to think that people are judging us a lot more than they actually are. So on social media, yeah, when you start out, you might have a few of your friends and family and everyone around you really just checking in and thinking, oh, what is it that they're doing? And people that aren't really interested looking. But then after a while, you end up getting the people that are just genuinely interested, or the majority of them anyway. And what the spotlight effect says is that we really perceive that people are way more judgmental about what we're doing than they actually are. And in fact, that's because it's coming from our perspective and we're in our own lives, so it is like our main focus. But for everyone else, they're getting on with their own lives, so we're not actually as big of a deal to them as we think we are, because we have that bias. So that was something that was useful for me to think about, because it could have held me back. Whereas I can't tell you how much doing this has really had a positive impact on my life. Even going to interviews, I feel like I speak better. Just everything. It's given me such a more in-depth way of thinking and better connections. And I just really encourage people to consider doing it, and at a time when they feel it's right for them. So I'm just going to grab a book that I wanted to recommend to everyone. So the book recommendation I have is Ditch the Act by Leonard, Kim and Ryan Foland. So this is a really practical book, and it also talks about what sort of things you're going to share, how to get over those initial feelings of self-doubt, and it's really, really helpful. So I hope you find that interesting if you happen to read it. So that's everything for today. Thank you.